10 over-engineered cars that shocked America. What happens when automakers forget about cost complexity or common sense and just build something wild for the hell of it? That's the question we asked in our recent fan survey, and your answers did not disappoint. You told us about the flip-top Fords, the turbo trucks that outran Ferraris, the ones your dad bought just to confuse the neighbors. These weren't corporate bestsellers. They were the weird ones. The overbuilt, overdesigned misfits that somehow made it to production. Some had too many wires. Some ran too hot. Others barely ran at all. But every one of them had character and a story. So here it is by popular demand, a list built by muscle car fans for muscle car fans. If one of these beasts left a mark on your memory, tell us in the comments, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Let's fire it up. (1957) Ford Fairlane 500 Skyliner. This wasn't a car, it was NASA engineering in a poodle skirt world. The 1957 Ford Fairlane 500 Skyliner rolled off the line not just with chrome and fins, but with a fully retractable power-operated hardtop. The first of its kind. And the last time someone thought, let's make the roof the most complicated part of the car. 7 electric motors, 4 lift jacks, 10 solenoids, 10 limit switches, and over 600 feet of wiring just to put the roof down. That's not a convertible. That's a mechanical opera. Standard power came from a 292 cubic inch Y-block V8, making 212 horsepower. Optional, the 312 Thunderbird Special, bumping that to 245 horsepower. Was it fast? Not really. Was it brilliant? Absolutely. Ford sold over 20,000 units that year, which is wild considering each car probably needed its own wiring diagram thicker than the owner's manual. One fan told us his dad would pull into Dairy Queen, hit the switch, and watch people stop mid-bite to stare at the roof folding like origami in chrome. That moment, pure royalty. This might be the first car we've ever included entirely by fan demand, and when you see one today, it still feels like watching the moon landing on wheels. (1976 to 1985) Mercedes-Benz W123. In the late 70s, Mercedes-Benz decided to build a car not for people, but for eternity. The W123 wasn't just over-engineered. It was the automotive version of building a nuclear bunker when all you needed was a garden shed. Mercedes poured metal into this thing like they were trying to survive the Cold War. Doors weighed as much as modern car hoods. Body panels thick enough to make you wonder if they were prepping for small arms fire. And maybe they were. Legend has it, some Mercedes engineers used double the required steel in key areas just in case of what nobody knows. And it worked. In places like Morocco, W123s are still used as taxis, with some clocking over 600,000 miles on their original engines. That's not a typo. That's German stubbornness turned into steel. The legendary OM617 diesel engine had no turbo, no computers, no nonsense. Just cast-iron simplicity so durable it makes tractors jealous. Highway speeds barely made it sweat. It was like asking a tank to jog. Here's the kicker. Mercedes reportedly lost money on every W123 sold. They weren't building cars. They were building artifacts. And today, these things are the cockroaches of the car world in the best way. After the apocalypse, they'll still be running. 1986 to 1989, Honda Accord. When we asked our fans to name the most over-engineered car they'd ever owned, this one came up again and again. The third-gen Honda Accord wasn't just well-built, it was designed like failure was a moral crime. This sedan could survive anything short of a direct meteor strike. And even then, the engine might still fire. Honda's obsession went far beyond reliability, it crept into madness. Door hinges were so overbuilt they felt like bank vaults. Weather stripping wasn't made to last a year, it was made to outlive your lease, your mortgage, and possibly your retirement. And the cup-holder Honda engineers didn't add it until it had passed 100,000 insertion cycles. That's not a feature. That's aerospace testing. Everything was designed with one rule: never be the weak link. These cars routinely hit 300,000 miles with nothing but routine maintenance. No sensor failures, no mystery lights. In a world where planned obsolescence was becoming the norm, Honda quietly rebelled, and the result was a car that refuses to die. This Accord wasn't just a commuter car. It was a lesson in Japanese engineering perfection disguised as a beige sedan. '87 Buick GNX. If Darth Vader had a company car, it was this. The 1987 Buick GNX wasn't just overbuilt, it was an act of corporate rebellion in black paint. Buick took its already quick Grand National, handed it to ASC and McLaren, and said, "Make it terrifying." The result? A turbocharged 3.8-liter V6, pushing 276 horsepower and 360 pound-feet of torque. But that's just what the brochure claimed. In real-world testing, it hit 0 to 60 in 4.6 seconds, outrunning Ferraris, Porsches, and yes, the Corvette. And it did it without drama. No decals, no wings, just murdered-out paint and a snarl. This was over-engineering with a mission to prove a Buick could make grown men in Mustangs weep. The GNX came with upgraded suspension special torque reinforcements and a rear axle setup so advanced it looked like NASA helped tune it. Only 547 units were built, making it rarer than most Italian exotics. Fans still remember the feeling pulling up next to one, thinking it was just another Buick, and getting absolutely annihilated. One fan put it best: no badge, no chrome, just pure menace. In a world of loud muscle cars, the GNX whispered, then destroyed you anyway. '88 Buick Reatta. This wasn't the car we expected fans to bring up, but in our latest poll, the name Reatta kept showing up. At first, we were surprised, but the more we looked into it, the more we realized this thing was classic over-engineering Detroit style. Built almost entirely by hand at Buick's Lansing Craft Center, a facility set up just for low-volume, high-detail cars, the Reatta was meant to showcase what Buick could do when no one was watching. The result? A two-seater personal coupe, loaded with features that no one asked for, but everyone remembers. Under the hood sat a dependable 3.8-liter V6, making 165 horsepower and 210 pound-feet of torque, modest by muscle standards. But then you get inside a CRT touchscreen in 1988, called the Graphic Control Center. It handled climate audio trip data and self-diagnostics. All of it through a clunky glowing green interface that made the car feel more like a NASA console than a Buick. The chassis was shared with the Riviera, but shortened and stiffened just for this one car. The body panels, many were composite, requiring special fitment. Even the assembly process was half-automated, half-hand-built, which meant expensive, slow, and totally unscalable. Only 21,751 Reattas were made, and to this day, it's still one of the rarest Buicks ever built. One fan told us it wasn't fast, but when I drove it at night, that screen made me feel like I was flying the Enterprise. The Reatta didn't try to beat Corvettes. It just tried to be different. And Buick, for a brief moment, over-engineered the hell out of it. Just because they could. (1992 to 2011) Ford Crown Victoria. This wasn't a car, it was a cockroach in a police uniform. Built to withstand everything from fender benders to brick walls, the Ford Crown Victoria became America's indestructible sedan, engineered with one mission: survive the worst drivers in the country 24 hours a day. With a body-on-frame layout straight out of a truck manual, the Crown Vic had the soul of a bulldozer in a business suit. Its 4.6-liter V8 wasn't fast, but it was relentless. You could redline this thing all day, and it wouldn't even flinch, just yawn and ask for more fuel. Cooling systems were designed for hours of idling in 100-degree heat. Electrical systems built to power enough police gear to run a radio station. Suspension reinforced to handle 400-pound cops hopping curbs with 50 pounds of equipment strapped on. And the transmission so overbuilt that Ford engineers probably threw parties every time one hit another 100,000 miles without maintenance, which happened a lot. In fact, this car ranked in the top 5 of our fan survey about vehicles that simply refused to die. Fans shared stories of ex-cop Vics still running strong at 600,000 miles, often still doing gig work for Uber. Police taxi civilian didn't matter. If the world ends, it'll be in a Crown Vic. (1991) GMC Syclone. Over-engineered doesn't always mean luxury. Sometimes it means cramming race car specs into a delivery truck body, then watching chaos unfold. That's exactly what GMC did with the 1991 Syclone. Instead of starting with a sports car, they grabbed a Sonoma compact pickup, stuffed it with a turbocharged 4.3-liter V6, bolted on forged pistons, oil-cooled internals, and strapped it to a Mitsubishi TD06 turbo with a water-to-air intercooler. Then they added all-wheel drive, a torque-splitting transfer case, and a 4L60 transmission, tuned to handle quarter-mile abuse, just to prove a truck could be quicker than a Ferrari. 0 to 60 in 4.3 seconds quarter-mile, in 13.4 faster than most Corvettes, Camaros, or Mustangs of the era. But here's the kicker. It had no tow rating, no off-road package. This was a truck built to outrun exotics, not carry drywall. The cooling system barely sufficient. Electronics temperamental. Drivetrain stressed to its limit. But fans didn't care, because the Syclone was GM going rogue engineering insanity for its own sake. In our latest fan poll, it ranked among the top over-engineered American vehicles ever made. Only 2,995 were built, and every one of them was a street-legal engineering experiment gone wonderfully wrong. (1970) Citroën SM version. We didn't expect this one to show up in our fan survey, but it did. A lot. And you know what? You were right. The 1970 Citroën SM might be French by birth, but its over-engineering deserves a place on any American list, especially when it scared Cadillac dealers half to death. Imported for just a few short years, the SM arrived like a spaceship parked next to chrome-laden land yachts. Powered by a 2.7-liter Maserati V6, it made 170 horsepower, enough for 0 to 60 in under 9 seconds. But that wasn't the headline. It was everything else. High-drop pneumatic suspension that could raise and lower itself. variable assist steering that adjusted with speed, and headlights that turned with the steering wheel years before anyone in Detroit dared try it. Braking forget pedals. The SM used a mushroom-shaped pressure pad that responded like a jet fighter. And when it all worked, it was magic. But when it didn't, even experienced U.S. mechanics waved the white flag. One fan told us my uncle bought one just to confuse people at stoplights, and it worked. No one knew what it was, but they couldn't stop staring. Only about 2,000 units were sold in America before regulations, parts shortages, and good old-fashioned Detroit skepticism killed it off. But for a brief moment, a French coupe stormed into Cadillac showrooms and made everything else feel a little outdated. Overbuilt, overwrought, and way too clever for its own good, the SM earns its spot on this list. 1976. Aston Martin Lagonda U.S. market. This was not your typical Detroit steal, but when we asked fans to name the most over-engineered rides they ever saw roll through an American showroom, the Lagonda came up more than once, and we get it. Just one glance, and you knew it was not built for backroads or burnout contests. It looked like it belonged in a Bond film or a dream garage, not a Midwest dealership lot. But in 1976, a few of these wedge-shaped wonders made it to our shores, and folks could not believe what they were seeing. The interior was something else. Instead of dials and needles, it had LED readouts and touch-sensitive panels. This was not a dashboard, it was a command center. The 5.3-liter V8 gave it some real presence too, with 280 horsepower, but let us be honest, most people did not buy the Lagonda to race. They bought it to experience something different. One viewer told us my dad saw one in a Vegas hotel valet line, and for a second, he thought it was a concept car that got loose. He never forgot it. Only a handful ever made it stateside. But the ones that did, they left a mark. They broke rules, raised eyebrows, and tried things most carmakers were too afraid to even sketch. Overbuilt, definitely. Overpriced, probably. 1990, Mitsubishi 3000 GTVR4 and Dodge Stealth RT. You did not expect Japan to show up on a list like this, but when we talk about over-engineered cars that left their mark on American streets, we would be lying if we left this one out. The 3000 GTVR4 sold in the U.S. as the Dodge Stealth RT Twin. Turbo was not just a car, it was an engineering showcase. All-wheel drive twin turbos, four-wheel steering, and even active aerodynamics that adjusted at speed. In 1990. While Detroit was downsizing and simplifying, this thing came loaded like a fighter jet. Its 3.0-liter DOHC V6 pushed out 300 horsepower and 307 pound-feet of torque, with 0 to 60 in under 5.4 seconds. But what really blew people away was how it felt. This was not brute force American muscle. This was tech muscle. Smart, sharp, surgical. The suspension constantly adjusted itself. The spoiler moved depending on your speed. Even the exhaust system had two modes. It was as if Mitsubishi said, "Let us throw everything we know into one car and hope it holds together." And to be fair, sometimes it did not. The complexity scared off mechanics. Repairs were expensive. But none of that mattered to the fans who saw one in motion. In the early 1990s, this car gave American muscle a run for its money and gave import fans something to be proud of. And that is our tribute to the wildest, most over-engineered machines ever built, as chosen by you, our fans. These were not just cars. They were moments in time when Detroit, Japan, or even France threw out the rulebook and just went for it. If one of these beasts ever sat in your garage, your driveway, or just your dreams, we want to hear about it. Drop your memories in the comments and help us keep these legends alive. Like, share, and subscribe for more stories that celebrate the madness, magic, and metal of true automotive obsession. Which car did we miss? Let us know, and maybe it will make it into part 2.